If it's 6A Division I, it's Duncanville versus North Shore. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the L4FR Clothing Power Plus Mouth Guard Class 6A Division I State Championship Preview Show. The last game on the docket for the 2022 season here in Texas. And, man, is it a honey of one. We've got North Shore versus Duncanville once again. These two teams know each other very, very well, of course, in the state championship game. And it promises to be another interesting one. Does North Shore continue the dominance? You know, you got to realize that for all the talk of this rivalry, it hasn't been one yet. Duncanville's yet to win. The first game was the only one that was really, really close, of course, the Hail Mary game. But these teams keep meeting. I just don't know how much of a rivalry it is until Duncanville gets a win. And maybe this is the year they finally do. We'll be doing what we've been doing all of these shows, and we're going to be breaking down how these two teams got here through our road to states. Then the crew, including me, Grant, Chris Daly, NETSN, and others will give picks on the game. Marc Henry and Matt Davidson, both of Texas top prospects. They're going to be doing our road to state for both of these teams and giving their picks. So we do appreciate all the work. We appreciate all the work everybody's put in this year, and we appreciate everybody that has came to the website and found us on the podcast platforms. We've had ourselves another banner year. But all right, let's get to it. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, road to state. How did North Shore and Duncanville get back to this place? We'll find out here on the LSG Sports Network.
Hey, football fans, Christmas is right around the corner. We have the perfect gift for your high school football fan in your life. Friday Night Legends, the board game. With Friday Night Legends, you can play the greatest high school teams of all time against each other based on their real stats. That means you can play the 1989 Odessa Permian Panthers of Friday Night Lights fame against the 2017 Mater Day team and really see who's the better team. Or what about Peyton Manning's Newman High School in New Orleans against Trevor Lawrence's Cartersville, Georgia team? There are thousands of teams in the library from all over the United States. Get your copy of Friday Night Legends at BoardGameLegends.com and be the hero of Christmas morning.
Marc Henry, Matt Davidson with the top Texas prospect road to state preview for the Duncanville Panthers. Let's talk about Duncanville a little bit. They're undefeated, rated number 1, number 2 in the state all year, 7-0 in district, the District of Doom, which included the game before them. We talked about the DeSoto Eagles. We've talked about them prior on different shows. Go back and check us out every week on the Lone Star Gridiron Network, the Top Texas Prospect Show, myself and my guy Matt Davidson. But the Duncanville Panthers are 14-0, took on several tough teams coming out of the gate. South Oak Cliff, who is in the 5A Division II state championship final, was their first opponent. That was a 23-10 win. They took on Jones from Orlando, Florida, put up 74 points on them. When they got to district, it was just business as usual for the Panthers and Coach Reginald Samples. Waxahachie was a 24-7 win, a 38-3 shutdown of a decent Mansfield team, and then the big victory against rival DeSoto, 41-17. As the Panthers hit the playoffs, they took on Bryan and put up 74 points, put up 41 points against Wiley, took on a really good Woodlands team and shut them down defensively, only allowing them to kick a field goal, a 35-3 win. And the closest contest all season, and definitely in the playoffs, was a team from Houston by Westville with a great quarterback in P.J. Hatter, Dejon Palomo at wide receiver, some talented players that put up 21 points against a great defense. But the difference was the running game. And we're going to talk about the special player that they have on offense before we get done here. 28-21 victory. And then last week, put the clamps on a very good Prosper offense to a tune of 41-0 to reach the state championship again to face their nemesis, the North Shore Mustangs. But this offense has been lights out. They're putting up over 42 points a game. The defense, one of the top defenses in the state, only giving up a shade over 9 points a game. That's domination, Matt. Come on in and tell me what you think about the Duncanville Panthers.
Well, I'll say this will be their best chance. They have a great opportunity. This is their fourth time meeting North Shore at state. If they cannot win it this time, I think that would be so much heartbreak, and everybody would feel so bad for Coach Samples and the Duncanville Panthers. So I hope for the city, for the area of Dallas, DFW, I hope that Duncanville can win. North Shore is very strong, very strong. I think Duncanville is very strong. It's gonna come down to penalties. It's gonna come down to mistakes. Whoever plays the best mistake-free football will win the game, because it's that close. With the athletes matching up, it's gonna come down to who can make a play when you need it the most. Last year it was North Shore. The year before it was North Shore with a couple of touchdown lead on that one, and the year before with the crazy Hail Mary to start things off with the meeting at state between North Shore and Duncanville. This is so crazy. I can't remember a team meeting each other 4 times at state. I really hope Duncanville can win this game. I think they got the tools, they got the players. Their quarterback, I've seen him a little bit. I'm hoping that he can come in and be ready. I know he's a young guy, a junior, I believe. I just really I feel good about their team. They have really good players. Colin Simmons, of course. They have Peters. He's a good player for them. Lineman Tyron Polly, that goes by Man, just got offered by LSU. So yeah, they have a lot of good players. Of course, Caden Durham, he just got Texas Tech offered him about a week ago. Explosive running back. He can do it all. He typically gets anywhere from 100 to 230 yards on the ground each game. There are so many good players on this team. I just really hope that they're able to capitalize and take care of business. Also, Katron Simpson, another good player to look out for that plays. I think he wears number 10 for Duncanville. Something to look out for. Of course, quarterback is, Keelan Russell. So with Keelan Russell, he's a young guy, sophomore actually, class of 2025. So he's not a junior, he's a sophomore. So big deal for a young guy. Can he take care of it at state? We'll find out. He's a young guy, and I think that with them beating Prosper last week 41-0 in the rain at SMU Stadium, Gerald Ford Stadium, I think that bodes well for the young quarterback. He's never played against North Shore. Some of these other guys have on the team, so I think that will help. Let's see what this Duncanville coaching staff can do with the former state championship winner from DeSoto, Coach Todd Peterman. Left DeSoto, went to Brewer. Then he took a year off. Now he's with Duncanville as the offensive coordinator. So I think that's going to be a big deal. Can Coach Peterman call a game plan to give them an X factor from the coaching perspective? Up in the box. Can that help them? Can that be the X factor against North Shore this time, having Coach Todd Peterman, a state champion himself, winning against the Pueblo Steel a few years ago back in 2016, 2017. Mark, what do you think about that?
I think you made all great points there. The X factor is going to be Caden Durham. He was injured last year when they played North Shore, and they didn't have any type of offensive weapon that's this explosive in the previous meetings in 2018, 2019, and last year, 2021. He's lightning in a bottle. He went for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against a very good, stout Prosper defense who hadn't been giving up much. They only gave up 13 to Louisville, a very good team the previous week. But their defense is dominant. They're not even giving up 10 points a game on average. They've been dominant, led by the 5-star recruit, Colin Simmons on the defensive end. He's the number 1 player in Texas in the class of 2024 on the defensive side. DeCorian Moore, one of the fastest guys in the state. Also, he and Caden Durham are on that 4x1, 4x2 nationally rated track team. The speed, size, physicality on both sides of the ball with North Shore and Duncanville. They kind of cancel each other out. The key is going to be, like you said, penalties and execution. The coaching staff's putting the chess pieces in the right place to be successful. Deldrick Madison is the defensive back that you just don't want to see. He's a hat bringer. He comes downhill. He can play corner. He can play safety. And he brings a nastiness to that defense in the secondary that they have and they bring every year. This is going to be a game that you are definitely want to see. But from the Duncanville perspective, can they get it done? They've been wire to wire, one of the best teams in the state. But sometimes teams just have your number and they want to see North Shore. You know, we've been talking about this all year, and I've been telling people that I thought this was the collision course, and maybe some people don't want to see it or try to see the same team. But this is the two best teams. These are the two best programs in the state in 6A. There's the here again. You know, last week, North Shore shut down a great Austin Westlake team. Their defense up front, they're mirror images of each other. This is going to be the ultimate matchup. This is going to be a slugfest. Duncanville has the tools. They have the momentum right now to get it done. Can Coach Samples get over this hump? It's almost like the Buffalo Bills of the 90s. They went 4 times and came up short. They had great offenses with Jim Kelly, big-time Thurman Thomas. You know, this is what they had going into the 90s. Can North Shore get it again? Can Duncanville become champs? We're all going to see that. This is the best game that you're going to see. It's going to be packed. It's probably going to set a record this weekend for attendance at Jerry World, at the state championships. This is the kicker. This is the finale. This is what you want to see. And Duncanville's primed and ready to go. And this is their road to the state, brought to you by the Top Texas Prospect Show on the LSG Network.
This show is brought to you by the book, All I Need to Know I Learned from My Texas High School Football Coach. A handbook of wisdom for parents, young people, and yes, even coaches. Head over to www.learnedfromcoach.com and order your copy to support sharing the stories of these great coaches and leaders. That's learnedfromcoach.com.
Marc Henry here from the Top Texas Prospect Show and Third Coast Gridiron, here to give you the LSG Network Road to State for the North Shore Mustangs. The East Side High from the Houston, Texas area, better known as the North Shore Mustangs, led by Coach John Kay, come in with a 28-game winning streak. They are the defending 6A champs from the 2021 season. They are back in the state championship again with a 15-0 record coming out of District 21 6A. Let's talk about that season as a whole. The North Shore Mustangs have been wire to wire the best team in 6A. They've been hovering around the 1, the 2, maybe even the top 3 position in the state of Texas, and they're a highly ranked team in the country. They started off with a tough Woodlands team with a big victory of 49-21, shut out a Spring Lion team 42-0, took on a eventual state playoff team in Westfield and shut them down 55-25. And also they play in one of the toughest districts in the state that features playoff teams Seed King, Summer Creek, and their rival Atascocita, which they took care of business against Atascocita during the district meetup again with these two teams, 16-13 in a tough game. When they hit the playoffs, the Mustangs hit the playoffs like a stampede, dusting off and taking care of Kingwood 56-7 in the first round, beating Dobie in the second round 49-3, took care of a tough Dickinson team 43-34. Cinco Ranch, they also took care of business against them 49-21. And in a rematch for the second year in a row against District 4 Atascocita, they took them down 38-7. And their opponent in the semifinals, they exercised some demons. A couple of years ago, Kate Klubnik, who is the quarterback at Clemson now, took down North Shore and Demetrius Davis and Shadrach Banks and Company in a semifinal contest and knocked them off. That was the last time that the Mustangs lost, and they exercised those demons, coming out with a 49-34 victory over a previous unbeaten Westlake to advance to the 6A Division I championship game. That'll be a 7 o'clock kickoff that will end the state championship weekend at Cowboy Stadium. Now, again, they come in at 15-0. The offense is averaging a hefty 46 points a game, but their stout defense, especially that front seven, is only giving up about 14 points a game. They've had 5 appearances in the state championship, and they've come home with 5 championships each time that they've touched the field in a state championship game. This is one of the most anticipated matchups. They're facing a rival, a familiar foe in the Duncanville Panthers. Each time that they faced them, they've come out on top in 2018 and 2019, and last year in a close contest, the Mustangs came out on top to beat Duncanville. They've met the last 3 out of 5 years these two teams have faced off. This is for bragging rights. This is from the DFW, which Duncanville is from. And, of course, North Shore represents the Houston area. These are the 2 best teams. This will be for bragging rights as well. But the North Shore Mustangs have been there and done that. They have a 28-game winning streak coming into this contest, and they are the team to beat. They'll be the favorite going into this. In the Mustangs' backfield, they have a 3-headed loaded monster in running back Rashad Johnson, who had 138 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. Also, UTSA commit David Armandor. Now, he's an all-state receiver, but since the injury to their quarterback, Caleb Bailey, Armandor's come over and play quarterback, and he has kept the ball rolling. He has been a consistent and key contributor from that position as well. He had 112 yards and a touchdown. And the sophomore sensation, DeAndre Hardiman, also is a guy that you need to know about coming out of the Mustangs backfield, as well as athlete Evan Jackson, who can also hurt you in the special teams area, as well as he had a punt return for a touchdown. These guys are super talented. They know how to get it done. Can they continue their winning streak? That's the key. That's going to be the talked about thing this week coming into the state championship game against Duncanville. Will they continue their dominance, or will Duncanville actually get in there and try to become a state championship for legendary head coach Reginald Samples? Also, another guy to watch for the Mustangs is defensive back Jacoby Davis. He's got offers from Big 12 schools, SEC and Pac-12 schools, and he's a key contributor on the defensive side for the Mustangs. And also another guy to watch up front is Elijah Fields. He's a 6'1", 265-pound defensive tackle. He can also play on the end and rush the passer as well. A very stout competitor, a very physical at the point of attack guy that knows how to play the run as well as the pass. He is a key contributor for the Mustangs up front in that front seven that will have to deal with one of the top running backs in the state in Caden Durham, who is one of the top running backs that you'll see coming from the Duncanville side of things. But this is the road to state for the North Shore Mustangs. Check it out. The biggest game of the week to end the week. Can the North Shore Mustangs repeat as champions and continue their dominance? This is their road to state.
And I do want to thank Marc Henry and Matt Davidson for doing those for us. Check out their show, Texas Top Prospects. It's the best show about recruiting because it doesn't have an angle. It's not connected to a college. It's not connected to a recruiting service or anything like that. It's just 2 guys who work their butt off to get interviews with coaches and players who are looking to play at the college level. And it's an awesome show. They've been around for 5-6 years here on this network. Man, we've been here a while. All right, so we got our road to the states. Now we're going to bounce through the crew, and each one is going to tell you who they think's going to win and why. We'll start off with Chris Daly, site owner, and here are his thoughts on this game.
Hi, this is Chris Daly. You know me from Lone Star Gridiron, but you may also know me from Board Game Legends. That's right. 2018, we came out with the game Friday Night Legends, in which originally it was just Texas high school football teams that you could play against each other in this board game based on their real stats. So you could take the 1983 Dangerfield team and you could play them against Johnny Manziel's Kerrville Tivy team, or maybe that great 2015 Katy Tigers team. Whichever teams you want, you can play. It's a great board game. It has expanded now and covers the entire country. In fact, we just had some German teams added to the thing because Germany, there's a lot of U.S. military bases, so there's a lot of U.S. schools there, and they play high school football. So weirdly enough, we have international high school football teams now in that game. But what we like to do is play these state championships using Friday Night Legends. We just didn't have time this time around because it's been a very busy, very wonderful Texas high school football season. So instead, I'm going to tell you what I think would happen if we had played these games. All right? And rest assured, within a week of state championship being over, all of these teams that have appeared at the 2022 UIL state championship football games, all of these teams will be available for Friday Night Legends. You can get them at FridayNightLegends.com or BoardGameLegends.com. All right, the big boys, 6A Division I, that's Duncanville sitting undefeated against Galena Park North Shore, also sitting undefeated. North Shore is coming off a victory over Austin Westlake, the Austin Westlake team who has won the last 3 state championships in this division. That's a good team. Duncanville, I think, has had an easier road. You may also remember Duncanville and Galena Park North Shore have met up in this game 3 years. This is the 4th meeting. Galena Park North Shore has won all 3 of those. If you're from the DFW area, you are screaming, this is Duncanville's year. I'm here to tell you, it's not. They go 0-4 against Galena Park North Shore in the state championship. North Shore Mustangs takes home another title. And I tell you, if the result is not the one you like at the end of the day, pick up Friday Night Legends, replay the game, make the decisions you think should have been made, and see if you can win with the team that didn't.
Hey, football fans, Christmas is right around the corner. We have the perfect gift for your high school football fan in your life. Friday Night Legends, the board game. With Friday Night Legends, you can play the greatest high school teams of all time against each other based on their real stats. That means you can play the 1989 Odessa Permian Panthers of Friday Night Lights fame against the 2017 Mater Day team and really see who's the better team. Or what about Peyton Manning's Newman High School in New Orleans against Trevor Lawrence's Cartersville, Georgia team? There are thousands of teams in the library from all over the United States. Get your copy of Friday Night Legends at BoardGameLegends.com and be the hero of Christmas morning.
Now let's see what Bret and the boys at NETSN.live have to say. By the way, they're also on our post-game shows. So if you're listening to this, if it's Friday before Friday night, we'll have one tonight, 10 p.m. We'll also have one to close out the state championship games on Saturday at 10 p.m. as well. So here are their picks for this game.
Thanks, Terry. Up next, we've got 6A Division I, Part 4 of the Duncanville Galena Park North Shore saga. Right now, Galena Park North Shore leads 3-1, but I'm going to go with another one of Corey's theories. Theory number 285, the Duncanville has to beat North Shore at some point theory. So I'm going to go with Duncanville, and that's 3 for 3 for Dallas. They're going to pack the stands and lead, and it's going to be a happy South Dallas celebration. Corey, who do you got?
I don't know what Dallas would do. It'd be better than the Cowboys winning the championship, 3 years in a row back when there was still tumbleweeds in Texas. But I'm going with Duncanville. Coach Reggie Samples will get his championship against North Shore. They 0-1, so Duncanville wins this championship. Let's go.
All right. Vince, who you got?
all Dallas, everything. I said it once, I'm going to say it again. Listen, Duncanville got to get a dub here. They got to. It's time. You can't keep losing to the same team. So I'm going with Duncanville for the win in this one.
Kyle, who you got?
Well, I just hope that we get a repeat of their state championship game a few years back, the last second Hail Mary. If it's something like that, I'm here for it, and I wouldn't care who wins. But I'm taking the Dallas ISD, Duncanville. I'm going with Duncanville. I think they're gonna get this one. I think they're getting the victory this time. But I'm predicting a final play score for the win.
I like it. Those are our picks. Back to you, Terry.
And now we turn our attention to Grant Goodwin of Sideline to Sideline. Him and I talk high school football, of course, on this website, talking 4A, 3A, and 2A. We also do radio. We do it all when it comes to high school football. Here's his thoughts. All right, in the last one, the Class 6A Division II game, we talked about how that game was hard to talk about as far as who wins because we weren't expecting that matchup. That's not the way it is at 6A Division I because, once again, it's Duncanville versus Galena Park North Shore in a rivalry that you and I were just talking about. It's a rivalry, but outside of the first game, Galena Park North Shore's pretty much had their way in it.
Yeah, I will say this. This is two teams facing off that are in a class of their own.
Really, 100%. Like, I mean, they could be 7A by themselves.
Oh, yeah. Let's play these two. Yeah, every year. I mean, good night. Duncanville just absolutely pimples Prosper 41-0. A really good Prosper team.
Very good Prosper defense.
Yeah, and Duncanville's defense is giving up 9.5 points a game, maybe at most. North Shore throttles Westlake 38-7. A really good Westlake team. Like you said, that first, the first matchup several years ago, North Shore gets the Hail Mary and, pretty much just snatches the championship away from Duncanville. After that, it hadn't been real close. I think this one's a lot closer than the last few years, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And I see a lot of people are actually taking Duncanville. I'm taking North Shore, but in a close one.
When I look at this game, I go back to when we saw Duncanville a couple weeks ago against the Woodlands. And Duncanville, through this whole run, you've never thought about them offensively. And again, it's so crazy that both them and North Shore lose their starting quarterbacks, yet they're still here. That just tells you how great these programs are. But what I saw against the Woodlands impressed me in that first half. Duncanville had the patience to figure out what was working offensively, and they never sweated it. You and I were talking. They'd go 3 and out and punt like it was no big deal because they knew their defense was going to shut down the Woodlands. But once they found the weakness of the Woodlands defense, they absolutely attacked it. And at times in the past, Duncanville offensively has not done that well enough. They try to do too many different things, or they try to get too conservative. They've never found that middle ground. And for them to beat Prosper is not a shock. What shocked me was not shutting out Prosper, but scoring 41 on a Prosper defense that legitimately was only under Duncanville in DFW and had went through a run of teams just absolutely dominating them. So for Duncanville to score 41, I don't know. Maybe it is hey, everybody's rooting for Reginald Samples. A friend of mine from Houston said, hell, half of Houston's rooting for the guy because he's just such a good guy. Maybe it's that, but I think Duncanville finally gets it. But I do think this one is as close as the Hail Mary, no matter who wins. I don't think it'll be like last year. Because let's be honest, I'll straight up admit it. Last year's game was ugly. Like I turned it off at points because they were just playing 20-20 and they couldn't do anything offensively. I don't think it happens this time, but I do have Duncanville finally winning. Last but definitely not least is my good friend, award-winning sports writer of 2022, Matt Diggs. He's also a Celebrity Challenge Pick'em champion. He loves to lord that over people. But he, of course, knows DFW football well. He knows 6A football well. He knows all of high school football well. And he always has an interesting take. Check him out on Twitter. He's really funny to follow. And him and Coach X, our guy on Sideline to Sideline, they always are going at it in humorous ways. And he always has a humorous and unique view on games. And here's his view on this one. Okay, Matt, It's the big one. I don't know. Are you excited about it? Look, first off, in case you don't know, you're listening to the whole show, as you should know. But it's Duncanville versus Galena Park North Shore, and they've played 4 times in the last 5 years, and here we are again. We've been talking about we kind of have tired head of some of these repeats and rematches. Do you feel that way about this one, or are you excited about this one?
I mean, yes and no, because, ultimately both teams lost their quarterback early in the year. So we're not even seeing the teams at their maximum peak of what they were hoping at the beginning of the year when they were preseason ranked number 1 and number 2, depending on how you flip them around. They're not even at that max, yet here they are in convincing ways, both in their own way. So, it is just inevitable to happen. This game is more of a storyline, kind of a fun storyline versus more than a matchup line. And what I mean by that is I think everybody outside of North Shore, I even know people in Houston who are cheering for Duncanville. Like, that snake been so close. Something has happened every year. It feels like with Duncanville to keep them away from that. I think, obviously North Shore has earned this run that they've been on. Beating Westlake last week is absolutely sensational. And honestly, when you really break down the offensive line versus the defensive line and kind of the positional matchups, there are very few things that would lead you to believe that Duncanville is going to win this game. Yeah, I'm going to pick Duncanville just because I can't not pick Duncanville, and there's no logical reason to, a key matchup I can point at. Can I point at the coaching? Well, I think Coach K has pretty much owned, Duncanville's mental state for the last, 4 years with the Hail Mary and this and that and all that kind of stuff. So you can't look at that as an advantage. You look at the athleticism. Both of them have really good defenses, but obviously the fact that North Shore could put up, 40 plus on Westlake last week lets you kind of, can Duncanville stop that? A Westlake defense that might have been number 2 just with that North Shore and Duncanville kind of defenses. You can't really look at that as an advantage for Duncanville. I feel like North Shore's quarterback situation has kind of settled down. You look at Caden Dodson as kind of a game changer for Duncanville, and that is something. You look at Duncanville, and they've been able to outsize just about everybody they've played this year, and they've really leaned on that to leverage an advantage like they did against Prosper. But they're not going to have that against North Shore. North Shore is just the same kind of team that Duncanville is. Despite all of that, I can't pick against Duncanville. I just cannot let my heart do that. So, I mean, I'm coming on here acting like a complete hypocrite, talking out of both sides of my mouth, because I'm going to win either way, because I'm going to be like, well, I told you North Shore was going to win when that happens, but when my official pick is going to be Duncanville. But to me, it's more of a fan experience because I love the stories. And that, as a Plano East guy, this is my core, the underdog story. Samples has, going back to his stories with Lincoln and Skyline, he needs this for his legacy. He will not tell you that. He needs this for his legacy. I want this for his legacy. So more than I think North Shore can win or shouldn't win, I think Duncanville has to win. I mean, their window is running out. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 more years with this, but their window is running out, and I think there's no better chance than this year because that's all you have is this year. A couple of years ago, they got upset by South Lake Carroll. The window is closing for this kind of a dominance. Same thing with North Shore. It's got to be this year. I am cheering as a fan for Duncanville, but I can't give you factual data that makes me feel great about that other than the fact that those kids are going to play their butts off for him.
Yeah, it's crazy. The thing about this rivalry is outside of the Hail Mary game, these games haven't been nail biters, and just like last year, they tend to be ugly. I don't know what it says for the state of 6A football that these two teams, and these two teams are super talented. I'm not saying that, but for these two teams to lose their starting quarterbacks and still, for the most part, waltz through the playoffs, I don't know if that just speaks of how great they are, or does it speak of we're just in a weird, I don't want to say full era, but we're in a weird few years where the 6A D1 is just, I don't know. There's just something weird about it. I don't know. I don't know why these two teams keep getting through when they're not terrible teams, but they just offensively at times they can be really ugly.
It's just the kind of style of football they play. I mean, we're not seeing, when you go down to D2 and you kind of look at what Westlake has done, there's a little bit of beauty to that spread offense, the dodgeball kind of offense. This is just, we got bigger kids than you and we got faster kids than you, and we're going to lean on you until you can't be leaned on anymore. And eventually those 3 to 4 to 5 yard runs start to become 20 to 30 to 40 yard runs because our athletes are just so much more physical than your athletes. But then you put these two together, and like you said, sometimes it gets ugly because it's like the Spider-Man meme of each team kind of pointing to each other. Each will have a special receiver. Each will have a special, defensive back that you have to kind of keep an eye on and kind of finding out, that's where the coaches are going to be, all the sleepless nights is figuring out how we're going to stop this, how we're going to stop that. And at the end of the day, it's just kind of the same thing. It's like a scrimmage when these two teams play each other. And Duncanville has been a lot more consistent. And I think that's the one thing that I think you can look at, because I could have swore early on that Atascocita had a really good chance to beat North Shore. That's like the one thing I look at. In that game, the first game, not the second game, very well could have beat that game. And I know you could look at Touchdown Dave as just kind of getting the sea legs at that point, and still figuring that out. But Duncanville, the way they beat Prosper 41-0 and that kind of defense, if their defense can play at that ridiculous, stifling level, that is their window and that is their chance. And I don't, in the DeSoto thing, I wondered about if they were going to play at their ceiling. I don't worry if Duncanville is going to play at their ceiling, that we're going to get 100% from them. I just don't know if their 100% is going to be good enough to beat North Shore, but I hope so.
And with that completes not only this show, but this year's round of recorded podcast here on the Lone Star Gridiron Sports Network, Lone Star Podcast Network. And I just want to say thanks to everybody this year that helped out. This has been a banner year. Every year is a banner year since I've come on here, because each year we do better than last year. This year we did over 200 shows, and I did 190 of them. That's not even including our pro show, Outdrank the Coverage, or Chris doing his college show. So, we're getting a ton of content out. We're getting a ton of listeners. If you're a coach, a booster club, a fan, and you want your school to have a coach's show, reach out to me, Terry at LoneStarGridiron.com, and I'll tell you how we can make that happen. We start, the season ends on Saturday. I basically take Christmas off and the week after Christmas, and then I'm right back into it. Because while it might be off season, we all know football never sleeps in Texas. And so we get right back into it immediately. As soon as the new year hits, we're on the ground running, looking for more content. We're going to have a ton of good off-season stuff. We have Chris Daly and his off-season coaches series. We have the Texas High School Hall of Fame series, and we have more coming down the pike, so be staying tuned at LoneStarGridiron.com. On our Facebook, Lone Star Gridiron, Sideline to Sideline. On Twitter, at LS Gridiron or at Grant and Terry. Everybody be safe on your travels if you're going to the games, on your holiday trips, for your holidays. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, happy whatever it is you celebrate it. Just celebrate it well and celebrate it safely. And until next time, this has been Texas High School Football right here on the LSG Sports Network.